Hi, scholars. This is Tanya Wilcox from TheDream.Us. Happy to have all of you with us this afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the country. I'm very excited and thrilled for you to meet a handful of our scholars who graduated from a university a few years ago, and especially we have a kind of a special guest because one of the alum that you were going to meet today, she was in that very first cohort of students who received the Dream.Us scholarship. That back in 2013, only 26 scholars from around the country got a scholarship. And this scholar you're going to meet later was one of those 26. Now we give over 1,000 scholarships every year to students. So you're going to be one of those pioneer scholars and who's going to tell you what her professional career has been like, and the other amazing alumni that are joining us here today. This is really a chance for all of you, not only to hear from alumni and how they've managed and follow their careers, but also for all of you to connect with each other and to network with each other, because connections and networking and relationship with people in professions that you're interested in is really important to help you find mentors, to help you find internships and jobs in the future. So I'm going to ask you to do two things in order for us to start connecting with each other and developing those professional networks. So Sadana just said in the chat to please share your LinkedIn profiles in the chat box and then start connecting with each other via LinkedIn. Our alumni that are present will also do the same, so you can connect with them via LinkedIn. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you to do again in the chat is introduce yourself. Say, hi, I am Maria. I go to this college. This is what I'm majoring, and I'm hoping to be a teacher, lawyer, social worker, whatever it is. So please, I'd love to start seeing your chat fill up, the chat box fill up right now with all your introductions and all of your LinkedIn profiles. And before I introduce you to our panel, I want to give a quick shout out to several of our staff members who are here from the Dream.Us. You have a support of a group of amazing women who work every day to make sure that we can bring the services and the supports that we hope are helping you in launching your careers and from graduating from college. So we have another alum who's not on our staff. You've heard her name many times, and that's Sadana, who's been with us for a few years and graduated from Trinity College. And then we also have another one of our alumni who's at the Dream.Us staff and joined us earlier this year, and that's Melanie. I don't know if Melanie, you want to show your face and give a big wave, but she's joining us today from Illinois, Chicago. And then I also saw Hain Lee, who is our person who does data and evaluation, and all the surveys that you fill out every year help the Dream.Us develop the kind of data and stories that we can share to advocate for the rights of immigrants. So Hain is very important on our team because she is asking you to share your stories and data and helping us use that in an effective way to support all of you. And I think that's everyone from the team that is here. Do you see anyone else, Sadana? I think that's it. All right, so let's get started. And thank you. I see, I think it's Yamilet. Thank you for sharing who you are from Lehman College, majoring in psychology, and also see Josie joining us from UC. Yay, third year, wanting to be a teacher. You're going to meet a teacher from California today, Josie. And I see Maria Camilo Olivo. Thank you for joining us from Arizona at Grand Canyon University. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give a very quick introduction of who you are, your name, what you majored in college, when you graduated, and from which college, and what is your current job right now, and who do you work for. So just take 30 seconds to a minute to introduce yourselves. And let's start with Kirsty, since I have you at the top of my screen.
Hello, everyone. God bless you. And my name is Kirsty Martinez. I graduated back in 2017 from the City University of New York as a political science and public policy major. Now I work as a community liaison at the Office of Assembly Member Latoya Joyner for the 77th District of the New York State Assembly. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
And Kirsty, thank you for joining us. She is that person that I mentioned that was in the very, very first cohort of scholarship recipients at TheDream.Us. So applause to you, Kirsty, for joining us today. Next, Shanetta, would you do a quick intro, please?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Shanetta. My major is criminal justice. I graduated in 2020 during the pandemic. I graduated from Florida International University, and currently I am a medical claims analyst and I work for Progressive.
Thank you, Shanetta. And maybe you can quickly share what you did right before this job.
Right before this job, I worked as a success coach and I worked for YMCA.
And later on, you can tell us what that means.
Well, yes, I will.
All right, and then we have next, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa. I graduated from York College in 2018, and I majored in sociology and a minor in psychology. I currently work as an advocate counselor at a high school in Manhattan. And the program that I'm in is from Canva. It's a nonprofit organization. Aside from that, I work part-time with an organization in Brooklyn where I organize around TPS.
Thank you, Melissa, for joining us today. And Jose.
Hey everyone, I'm Jose Chavat. Oh, am I muted or you can hear me?
We can hear you.
I'm Jose Chavatin. So I graduated from UC Santa Cruz in 2019. I majored in history and minor in education. And I also just graduated from the Stanford Teacher Education Program with a master's in education and my teaching credential. I'm a social science and ethnic studies teacher at Carmel High School up in Belmont, California. It's a pleasure to meet all of you guys.
Congratulations on your master's from Stanford University, yay. And let's have a last, but definitely not least, Joanna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joanna. I graduated in 2020. I got my BS in psychology. I graduated from Texas A&M University at San Antonio. I am currently a behavior interventionist and a registered behavior technician. I work for a nonprofit restorative justice public school, but this week I'm transitioning to work at a RBT clinic, specializing more with students that have autism. And that's right now. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. As you can see, as scholars, we have a panel made up of Kirsty, who is in policy and government work. We have a different variety of educators, from counselors to teachers to coaches. And so there's in some ways that the educators are also doing social service work. So this is really a way for you to ask a lot of questions and learn more about how these students or these scholars started their careers and how their careers have developed. So in that way, my next question for all of you is really tell us a little bit about your career trajectory after you graduated from college. What are some of the things that you did, the jobs that you've had, or maybe the schooling that you went through that led you to the positions that you are in right now? And as you talk about that, tell us about what helped you along the way, the what or who or resources that helped you get to where you are today. So let's go back and start with you, Kirsty. Yeah, I mute yourself, Kirsty.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Tanya. So I actually was out of school for so long that I felt so rusty when I went back to, I went to Bronx Community College for my first 2 years. And then I transferred to the City University of New York. So I felt like I didn't know a thing. I wanted to learn from scratch, and I was so eager, and I had no idea what I wanted to be in life. You know how some people know, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, like they know what they want. I had no idea. So I decided to take a class on everything. And I'm so glad they allowed me to do that, right? That's why I did liberal arts for the first 2 years. And that way I could take a course on anything they had, literally. And I found the political science class so interesting. That's when I really learned about society. I learned about why things happen, you know, like at the community level. So it was very nice. And what I also did was that I started doing different internships and getting involved, trying to find my passion. I had no idea. So I was a statistics tutor, also a communication supplemental instructor at the college. And then I ended up doing like a women's public service internship. And that's what really, I fell in love with the work I was doing as an intern. And I happened to be interning at the office where I now work. So a year after being an intern there at the office of Assemblywoman Latoya Joyner, they asked me if I wanted to have a full-time position as a scheduler. And I said yes. You know, I felt like I was impacting other people's life. I was actually learning so much about things we can do to change our environment. And that's really how I found my job. I was just doing different internships until I found a passion for something.
And what's one thing that you love about this kind of work you do?
Well, just hearing someone call you back and say, thank you. Like sometimes our community, especially, they don't know many don't know how to navigate the system. And sometimes just being able to be that helping hand and being able to help them go through the system and find assistance with paying the rent or getting resources available that they didn't know about. You know, so we help a lot of seniors, and it's just so gratifying to know that you help someone come out of depression, because sometimes there are real life problems that can end up affecting you mentally in a deep way. So just being able to assist is, I find it the most gratifying.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's go to you, Chanetta. Tell us a little bit about your professional trajectory after you graduated from college.
So just like Chrissy, I had no idea where I wanted to go in high school. And so I just got back to my childhood. I remember I always wanted to be an attorney. And so I was just like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I went back to school and I got into criminal justice. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did not start there. I started off doing teaching first. And then I was just like, no, I can't do teaching. And then I went into dental hygiene because I was like, who doesn't want to see a bright smile, you know? And then it shifted to me going back to criminal justice. And then I loved criminal justice so much. And while I was taking classes in school, I started taking classes on juvenile delinquency. And so that was my focus. After actually in my last year of college, I got a part-time job working as a counselor with YMCA. And they offered me a full-time position after I graduated to be a success coach. And that's how I started out. And as a success coach, similar to Chrissy, you had to assist high school students and their families. It was at risk mostly, but some of them dealt with challenges, mental health challenges, physical challenges. And so you had to assist them with making sure that they had resources to get to graduation. So in a sense, it was as if I was guiding their steps through high school. So we would also have to find resources for the family and find scholarships for the students. So TheDream.Us came in handy when I had to work with family members who, you know, they were just like me. So that helped. And then in that process, I found out that I wasn't loving what I was doing. And so I transitioned. I started doing research into claims and being an analyst. And I realized that I'm a detective. I love solving stuff. So that's where I am now. And this is my focus now. And I'm also going back to school. I'm so sorry. I'm also going back to school in the fall to get my Juris Master's degree in law to do a healthcare. Yes.
Awesome. So you're going to have a legal scholar here
Yes.
in Chineta. And it's interesting. Tell us a little bit about what's a claims analyst? What is that profession?
So it's going to be a medical claims analyst. So essentially you are like a detective. So you're going to be solving, putting together the pieces of whatever information you're given, and you're going to be solving it to make sure that whoever you're assisting, you have the information correct and you're able to assist. So it's basically being like a detective. So I love playing that role.
Got it. So it's not when you were a success coach, you were doing kind of like a coaching, case
Yeah.
manager, social work. And then now it's taking you to like this healthcare oriented
Yes.
data, and then you're going to go into law.
Yes.
So look at this scholars, how like Chineta's had this trajectory that has definitely linkages. It links with each other, but yeah, it's different from each other.
Yes.
So you don't have to necessarily stick with one thing, but you can build on, which sounds like what you've been doing, Chineta, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Great. And let's go back to New York with Melissa. Tell us a little bit about what you've done professionally since college.
Like everybody else, I didn't know what I wanted to do either. When I first started college, since I was younger, I always wanted to be a nurse. You know, that's what, you know, parents usually put in your head: lawyer, doctor, nurse. But I realized in my second year when I started taking the classes like biology, I realized it wasn't my thing. I didn't really want to do it. So that's when I started doing my research. I just researched like different options that I had because of the classes I already took, and I was in my second year. So I spoke to my professors to see what I could do, and so I ended up majoring in sociology and minoring in psychology. And even after graduating, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, what am I gonna do with that? And everybody who knew about, you know, what I graduated with, they were like, what are you gonna do with that? That was a question they were asking me. I didn't know how to answer it. But when I got my job, 8 months after, I kept looking for jobs and so on. That's when I realized that's what I wanted to do. Prior to that, I used to work at a store during college. I also used to tutor in college with, you know, adults, young. So it was a variety of different people. Like I said, when I got my job, I currently work at a high school where I help, you know, students, counseling students. I do like a major, I would say a mixture of like guidance counselor job and social work job. At first, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this until I got into it. And I felt very comfortable. I feel like that's where I want to be. That's what I want to keep doing because I just love helping young people, like the youth, because I feel like I didn't get that much support when I was in high school. So the fact that what I'm going through right now, like being a TPS holder and being limited, I love the fact that I can help the youth, whether they're in the same situation as me or not, because they are dealing with a lot of different issues outside of school, home. So yeah, I just love what I'm doing right now. And also I had a mentor. She's the one that helped me get the scholarship. Through her, she has an organization in Brooklyn called Haitian Women for Haitian Refugees. And she introduced me to TheDream.Us when I graduated high school. And she guided me throughout, you know, my whole journey. And I used to volunteer with her. I did Dream US, where I met Sadana in 2015. I met a lot of other dreamers. So that was really cool. A lot of youths like me. And yeah. So don't be scared. I was reading the chat where a lot of people like don't really know what they want to do. And it's okay. It happens, you know? And yeah.
And I will go back definitely later to that question of like, what do you do when you don't know what to do? So remind me to get back to that, Melissa. But I think, Melissa, what you're also showing us through your story is that you're working for a nonprofit, but yet you've been placed at a school. So you don't necessarily have to go work directly at a school or in the school system in order to be helping families and students in the educational setting. So keep that in mind. There are lots of amazing educational nonprofits out there that will take you into an education path and impacting students. But in your case, Jose, you are directly in the classroom every day teaching students. Tell us about your trajectory after college?
Yeah, so for me, since I was in high school, I think I knew I wanted to be in education. I just didn't know in what capacity. I think that my mentor in high school had a big influence in me. He was the only Latino man I saw in the school, and he wasn't even in the classroom. He was a guidance counselor. So in a lot of ways, I wanted to be like him. I went to community college before I transferred to UC Santa Cruz. It wasn't until I got to UC Santa Cruz that I decided to add on the education minor. And honestly, like, I think for me, like, that was what pushed me into the education realm even further, because majoring in history, there's very little things you can do with it unless you go into research after doing your undergrad. But like, I loved history and I wanted to keep learning it. And so, yeah, so when I was in UC Santa Cruz, just really networking with the professors and learning about like what I could do afterwards. I did think it was a little bit too tight to try to apply to grad school out of undergrad. So I ended up working as a paraeducator and instructional assistant for special education after I graduated from undergrad. And honestly, it wasn't a role that I wanted. It wasn't a role that I was completely happy with. Like a lot of us, you know, I wanted to like be able to have some sort of income that I could help out financially with my family a little bit more, especially up here in the Bay Area. It's really expensive. So I had interviewed for a EL specialist position at like the high school that I had gone to, and I didn't get the job. And I remember being super like resentful about it because I was like, I went to this high school, like I was an EL learner, and you know, the person who got the job over me was someone who had a master's degree. So that really hit, and so I ended up taking the special ed position at another high school within the district. But honestly, for me, I feel like it was like a butterfly effect moment, because I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't go to that school. Just the people that I met, the teachers that I met, and just networking more with people who went through Stanford, because the school that I was teaching, I was an ADA, had a connection with Stanford. Allowed me to really use what I learned there working with special education students and apply to my graduate program. Knowing that I want to teach after being in the classroom with the kids, really enjoying it, but also knowing that I wanted my own classroom, because I do feel like you're limited a lot in a lot of the capacities when you're in a school, but you're not the person in charge. So for me, like I wanted to go into teaching, and also like with Stanford, they have so much money to give that for me, that's really why I applied. Like I wasn't going to be able to afford grad school. So I was really figuring out like applying to private schools that were going to have fellowships that were going to help me pay for it. So yeah, I mean, getting into Stanford, just like the privileges that I hold being in here in the network that they have with schools, applying to jobs afterwards was not too difficult. And I was able to secure a job within like 2 interviews, which is like the biggest privilege that I could have now, just being back in my community and teaching in the community I grew up in. You know, it's a full circle being a student who out of high school, like I said, I went the community college route. So I didn't even think I would be going to college. I mean, I assume a lot of us, right? But I feel like a lot of times I had a lot of friends who were also undocumented who went to community college who ended up never transferring.
Well, congratulations on your persistence, Jose, because you know something didn't work out your way afterwards, but you kept going and you realized, yeah, it might not be the perfect job after college, but this job is going to get me to the next step. And for the next step was grad school at Stanford, and boom, then it got you where you are. So always remember that you know you never know what opportunities are going to be open through the pathways that are in front of you. And to keep an optimistic spirit and perseverance is what I think Jose is showing us here. And Joanna, let's go to you. And you're also working in kind of like social services / education, but with a different bent.
Yes. So my junior year of college, I was kind of, as a psychology major, one thing that gets at least for my experience has been drilled into my head is that you're not going to be rich, you're not going to make money, you need to get a master's. You're like, what are you going to do with that degree? And to that I always say, well, what are you going to do with your math degree if you don't plan to teach? What are you going to do with your engineer? There's always a comeback. I was very defensive of my degree because I chose to study what I wanted to study because I actually wanted to study that. And it was a big change for me to choose something that I wanted to do, not something that the people around me wanted me to do. So once my junior year came around, I needed to figure out, my route was to be an LSSP, which is a school psychologist. and I would need to go to grad school for that. And that was the main goal for my junior year. However, as I was starting to figure out what I wanted to do, I also got into psych research, and that's when I started to find a mentor in the school facility. And she took me into her lab. She did a memory, attention, and perception studies, and I was a lab assistant from my junior year all the way to my senior year. And she was a huge mentor and inspiration to me, and she helped me like build a resume, build a CV, and like through her advice she was like, you need to start gaining experience that's relevant to what you want to do right now. So even if it's like a TA position working, or so I started to look for jobs my junior year, and I got a job as a mental health tech at a psychiatric hospital for children. And I was there for about a little bit more than a year. Well, I was there until I graduated, so almost 2 years. And in that experience as a mental health tech, I was like, yes, school psychology still, but like counseling and therapy, especially with victims of sex abuse and trafficking, was like really tugging at me, because that's what I would come around a lot in the hospital. And you spend more than 40 hours with kids, and you build trust, and you learn like quick interventions, high crisis interventions. So when I graduated, and when I graduated, I realized that I didn't want to do school psych, but I wanted to I wanted to continue working with children in a therapy setting. So after, like, during the pandemic, I graduated, I needed a job. And because of my experience both with research and with my mental health tech position, I was able to secure a job as a behavior interventionist for a school. It's a restorative justice school, and they don't believe in punitive measures. They're really trying to change like their approach. So when I was hired in as to work with kids and provide interventions that are non-punitive and are restorative to both them and the people that they affect. So we are a first year school, and it's very intense. And I ended up actually assimilating a lot to the clinical setting that I was at. So I was able to be very good at the job at the school, and like gain a certification there, because even if you do have experience with behavior, it's always good to have your RBT, because it just secures you more. It secures your status more financially. So once I got that certification, um, I love the school setting. However, it was a great opportunity, but it was an opportunity that didn't reflect the value of my work. So I sought out another opportunity, and within a day of putting in 2 applications, I got back from one of the main ones that I wanted. And it was an RBT clinic, which is focuses mainly with like autistic patients, and in an inpatient setting. So I got a job with them within 4 days. I went to the clinic, they did the interview, but because of my connections, my experience, I was offered a position pretty quickly that was like a higher pay, higher benefits. And then in the fall, I'm starting my master's program to be a social worker, which is still, I've learned because of the connections I made with my coworkers and networking I had in the school. They were amazing. They encouraged me to apply to grad school. And the LCSW, the licensed clinical social worker, is the one that opened the whole, like, she opened the door of what I wanted, which is like, you get to work with kids, you get to be a therapist. A lot of people don't know this, but like social workers are actually licensed therapists as well, just as an LPC. Um, but you have more job opportunities in education, in a clinic, in a hospital with your social work more than your LPC. At least in Texas, we do, because schools are often more to hire a social worker than an LPC. So she opened that door for me. She educated me in that. She helped me apply. She's one of my mentors too as well. And I'm starting that program in the fall. And it's like a 2-year program, but I'm very excited to like be able to, like, very excited. And I know very privileged to be able to both work and study right now. So yeah, that's how I made it through. It was with networking, building relationships through mentors, and seeking out the right mentors for you. uh, that was a big one for me, because there's a lot of people that want to mentor you and that are putting their expectations on you. But finding the mentors that were going to support me for what I wanted to do, that was the gold nugget.
Well, I have to say, I'm so incredibly impressed by all of you. Really, authentically impressed. So scholars, start thinking of the kinds of questions that you want to ask these students. Put your questions in the chat box or raise your hand. And if you raise your hand, I'll call your name and I can start unmuting yourself, and then you can ask those questions. So while you think of those questions that you want to ask this panel, I'll throw another question for all of you. I know, Joanna, you talked a little bit about certification, and I know that for some of your careers, you do need some sort of certifications or licensing. So I know for Chanetta and Jose, you are on that boat. Can you tell a little bit about how you got your certifications or licensing in the states that you're in? You want to go first, Jose?
Yeah, sure. Again, this is going to be relative to California. Every state's going to be different, at least for credentialing for teachers. But to be credentialed as a teacher, there's different ways to go about it. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to get is a preliminary teaching credential, either in elementary or in secondary education. With elementary, that's going to be a multiple subject credential. With secondary, that's going to be dependent on what you want to teach. For me, it was a social science credential. There's math, science, English. Even before you apply to whatever teacher ed program, if it's a traditional teacher ed program, if it's a different type of residency program, a lot of times they ask you to get some standardized tests out of the way. I can name them, but it might become a little bit convoluted. You guys, later when I drop my LinkedIn, you guys could always ask me. They're around like 4 that you're going to need to get done throughout the time that you're either before your program or during your program that you have to get done to even be able to apply for your credential. But even then, after that, whenever you're in your program, you're going to have your program recommend you for your credential once you have all the prerequisites needed. After that, you have to do some form of portfolio performance to demonstrate that you can plan, assess, and interact with your students. And that's called the TPA. And that takes a long time, that portfolio. Like we were working on that for like 4 months. It's a long portfolio. Different programs go about it differently. You get assessed by Pearson, and you have to pay Pearson a lot of money for them to assess you. And then that's basically the ticket that you need to be recommended for your credential. Your supervisor, your program recommends you for your credential. You pay more money to get your credential, you get your preliminary credential, and then you have to teach for a couple of years and do a teacher induction program to get your full credential that you then need to renew every 5 years and pay again. And that's the crash course on that. So there's a lot of money you have to spend to make money.
And I think that it's so important to understand as you are in your undergrad years to start thinking about this career that I'm thinking of. Doesn't need a credential, doesn't need a licensing, and start asking those questions of your professors and your colleges so that you know what's coming ahead. Because you want to be informed as opposed to blindly trying to pursue a career. So ask those questions. And there's a question that came here is, okay, there's some questions that I see coming in. Great, I will start asking those questions in a couple of minutes. I do want to mention for those of you who are looking to become teachers or have a career in education, Teach for America is a great organization that you should all know about. And my colleague Sadana is going to put in the chat box right now a document that has lots of resources for you for careers in education or law or nonprofit or policy. There's lots of links that are going to be shared in this doc. So as soon as it appears in the chat box, download it and use it. And in that list is going to be Teach for America. Look at Teach for America because they are offering a paid part-time virtual fellowship in teaching this fall. And the application is open right now, so you can go and apply. We have many of our scholars at TheDream.Us who have done Teach for America, gone through Teach for America, have become teachers. Teach for America has helped them get their certification as teachers. So this fellowship that they are currently recruiting for and that you can apply for, it could be a good way for you to get your foot in the door with Teach for America in a career in teaching. So I see Sadana just put up the doc there as a PDF, so go ahead and download it. Shanetta, what about in your case? I know you also had to go through some certification or licensing.
Yes, so actually, in my previous role as a success coach, they did whatever certifications you needed through YMCA as a success coach. So the good thing to look out for are companies that are going to be providing licenses or certifications to you. That's always a great step. And even right now, as a claims analyst, they are actually going to be providing me with the licenses. And so that license is called a 240. And it's a resident health license, and you have to go through training, and then you will be able to take the exam, and then you get the license in, and then you're able to work as a health representative in the state of Florida. So that's what it is.
So that's a great tip. Basically, when you're looking for a job, find if the companies that are hiring you are going to help you with the licensing or to get you certified. Because as I was talking, it's money, it costs money.
Yes, it costs a lot of money.
So
another thing too, I just want to add, also look for companies that have something called a tuition assistance. They are going to be helping you pay to go back to school. And that's also great. So look for those too.
Yeah, that's a great benefit. Yes, we're used to benefits like mental health insurance, retirement, but there's also tuition assistance for grad school, and that could be major. Okay, let's go to a couple of the questions in the chat. I see a question here from Alondra who says, were there ever times you felt like giving up? And if so, what were ways that got yourself to keep going? Anyone?
All the time.
All the time.
But yes, like I had a panic when I graduated high school, because it was also when Donald Trump got elected, and the anxiety and panic, and my DACA was still being processed for renewal. The environment, I had come up with alternatives. I'm like, I have to go back to where I was born. I can start like I can start over there. Like I was already thinking of panicking ways of like, I can't be here. Like I was just feeling like my mom had to sit me down and it was like, breathe, take it easy, breathe. And I was already enrolled, so I'm like, no, it's fine. Like I got the good news. I kept going. I'm at the point where my status, I no longer see it as something that is holding me back, but pushing me to move forward. And that transition has been huge, because that's not what it was at high school, and now it is where it's here. Like I'm like, oh, I'm DACA, or something that I don't even address in interviews, because I'm like, I have a social security, I'm allowed to work here. I don't bring it up. I used to bring it up at the end of the interview. It was like, oh, I'm also like a DACA recipient, and I'm like, no, if I made it through phase 1, they don't need to know. Like, because once they run it and you're valid and everything's great, then it's really none of their concern. So gaining that confidence in my status and gaining the confidence in like, I am skilled, I am educated, I am just as worthy as any applicant, that confidence that I built has really always helped me restore when I felt like I'm like, oh, but like this is going on in the news again. Somebody said this again, and it's debilitating me again. I think back of like, no, like I have gotten this far. You graduated college. Many people who are citizens don't graduate college. Many don't graduate high school. Like, be proud of the accomplishments that you have made. And like, if you're here and if you're in the chat, like you've already made a huge jump. Like, yes, there's moments where you don't feel like you're like, oh, is it worth it? But it is. Like, you keep pushing yourself to go this far. Like, it's just keep going. Like, you're in the right steps. There's okay to feel lost. It's okay to feel like you don't know what you're doing. Okay that you miss out on opportunities that you thought were great, but you took an alternative and that turned out even better. Like that, like, it's okay. We're young, but like your status and you are not meant to be broken, or are not meant to be like mistreated. So that always motivates me to like put myself back together.
Mm-hmm.
Janetta, did you want to chime in?
Yes, I did. let's be honest, having our status or not having our status, a lack of our status, you live in constant fear. So you are always worried. You're always thinking about what is going to happen. That thought is always there. So because that thought is there, you're always thinking you don't fit in. You don't think that you're going to be great. Even when you see that it's working, you're going to keep doubting yourself like, oh my gosh, like this should not be happening. But remember this, I'm just going to add to what Joanna said. You are where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to achieve the things you're achieving. All the blessings that you're receiving, it's for you. You are great. You are great, and you will be great. And that's what I live by every single day. So even if I feel like I just want to give up, I just keep pushing. You have to keep pushing. You have to get up and you have to move. And, all of those, think about where you are right now. Always try to think about where you are and not thinking about financially. Think about everything that could have happened and everything that led you to where you are right now. This is because you have to be great. You are destined for greatness. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That's what I always tell myself. So hopefully it helps you guys.
Thank you, Janetta. And kind of related, but a key question is, how about feeling the imposter syndrome and overcoming this imposter syndrome? And there's a question specifically like, when you're thinking like getting that internship or starting that research position or looking for that, and you're starting thinking, I don't have the skills, I've never done it before, this would be the first time, who's going to want me, that whole imposter and thing that goes in your head. How many of you have felt that, and how did you overcome it? So maybe we'll go back to Kirsty.
I think who doesn't? I think even Michelle Obama. I mean, we all go through this. If you're a human, you go through this. But what really matters is what you do with it. Like, do you stay there or you go past it? So that's what it's all about. Just throw yourself, and once you're in there, you have to move, you have to learn, you have to do what you got to do. So it's all a matter of jumping into what you need to do, because if we just stay controlled by fear, then we won't get anywhere. So it's fine to feel this way. It's fine. It's totally okay to feel so many doubts, to feel like you can't do it. We all experience that. But despite those feelings, just go for it, and you'll see how things will start working towards your good.
Right.
Here's another tip for you guys. If you ever feel as if you are you're not qualified for a position, always go back and reread the qualifications for the position and check it off. You're like, wait, I meet this, I meet this, I meet this. You're reassuring yourself that you are the right person for this position. And keep this in mind also. Your struggles are who you are. That makes you different. You want this way more because of your struggles. So you're going to fight harder to get this job or to get this position because you know where you're coming from and you know the benefits it's going to have for you and your families. So.
And a tip on the qualifications, when you read that job description, there's a list of like 10 qualifications. You do not have to meet all of them in order to apply for the job. A lot of times, especially women, tend to be like, I have to be perfect and I have to know every single thing that they want in this job description in order for me to apply. That is not true. If you meet half of the qualifications, apply. Right? Because it's not that you have to meet all of them. The employers are not looking for the perfect match either, because especially if you make it to the interview, you're going to be able to sell yourself in other ways. So don't sell yourself short. If you meet some of the qualifications, apply. So in talking about like job descriptions and all of that, there's a question related to if you want to find research position. I think, Joanna, you talked about doing research or getting an internship while you are in undergrad years. Could you give some tips on how to find an internship or how to find a research position?
I was just writing the response, but I did see that question. I began, so my school offers a BS in psychology, which is not too common. Like other schools do have bachelors of science, but they won't give you the bachelors of science. They won't house you under science because they recognize like psychology as a humanities, not a science. Our school housed it under science, but many schools also have a lot of science and psychology courses. I took statistics and research too, 1 and 2, and through that my two teachers, they were both most teachers that lead that are actually like assistant professors or senior professors that are leading research, and many times they are always looking for lab assistants and or people that are just interested. And for me, it began like asking questions and just always being active in class. But I would go to their office hours and I would ask like what type of research they were doing. And one of the professors, Don Weatherford, she focused in like memory, perception, and attention. And she saw that I like statistics. It was really hard, but I liked it. And she was like, you should come to one of our meetings. She invited me to come to one of her lab meetings. And in that meeting, I was able to get like become a member and be more consistent. And I became just assisting in the lab. And by that is like she ran grant funded research through the university, and she had received a special grant for this for research in like how natural environments and natural science affects your ability to pay attention. So she was so excited about this, and me and other two students were able to lead the research and be involved in the process for grant funding and actually go through with like procedures and settings. And it was really awesome. There's she was also a scholar, Carla. She was actually a biology research student, and she decided to go that route, and she's pursuing a PhD in bio research right now. So that's like, she went that route, and she is still a DACA recipient and DACA holder. So there's definitely space. I would just recommend for you to find out, one, if it's something that you actually have interest. You might not love it, you might like it, but you might not love it, right? But if you are interested, like stay after class, go to the office hours of your professors, especially your senior professors for your junior and senior classes. Weatherford had people that were freshmen and they were volunteering at her lab. So once you build that, once you are like you have that relationship with them, then you find mentors. She was a mentor for me. Like sometimes your lab professor will become your mentor. And through that, we went to conferences, and in the conferences we networked more, and I was able to meet people from the Valley. And it's always just getting into something that, like, don't be scared. Go to their office hours, ask a question, shoot your email, slide into the DMs. It's okay. The worst thing they can say is no. And trust me, most of them don't say no because they need, like, running a lab is a lot of work. And if you have students that are willing to volunteer 2 hours, they'll take it. They'll teach you how to collect data. They'll teach you how to run data. Like, professors are willing to teach you these things. They don't expect you to know everything. So don't feel like, oh, it's because I haven't taken this class or I'm unsure. Like, they're willing to teach you. Like, they are being paid to teach you. So that's okay. Somebody asked about a certificate. I have a registered behavior technician certificate, and it is an expensive course, like everybody else has said. Like, to get these certifications, like, you do have to pay, but many jobs are willing to pay that for you. So if you make it through phase 1, they'll pay for your certification. So my school, just because I asked to be trained on this specifically, like, they were like, okay, they'll pay it. It's like $500 for the course and then like $100 for the test. But your job will pay for the training and will pay for the hours that you're taking it. So just look for jobs that, even if you don't meet it, like, they'll say, most jobs will emphasize that you can be certified within a few months if you make it through a phase 2.
Right.
I just wanted to add quickly to what Joanna said. In the question, you said if you were able to find internships online and volunteering. Online and volunteering are two other ways that you can find internships. Beef your resume up. Even if you have not graduated, please put on your resume that your expected graduation date. So that gets you into internships. A lot of companies, when you apply and go online and go to the companies that you're looking for, you're interested in, and go to their career website, they have internships available. Go on there and apply to them. Like I said, just list whatever you're studying and the degree you're going for in school on your resume, and put your resume in. You never know.
Any other words of advice about internships, finding internships, or volunteering, or how do you get experience while you're in your undergrad years?
I would tell you guys, when you go into your, when you get an internship or you're volunteering for a company or a nonprofit organization, I would recommend that you do your best. You never know who is going to be watching. That is how I got a full-time position with YMCA. Teachers were watching me at the school as a counselor. They watched how I operated in the office. They watched how I was with the students, and turns out everybody went in and put in recommendations for me to go to their schools. And like, I believe Melissa, I worked in high schools. I worked with high school kids. So you never know who's watching. And that's, just make sure you stand out and you do your best. You show up on time. You put, 110 plus 110 effort in there, like when you go and get these internships and volunteer positions, because that's how you're going to land yourself a full-time position.
Mhm.
And,
Kirsty, go
and
ahead.
also, yes, I would like to add, many times your college has great programs. Like half the things I did was through my school. Sometimes just go there, try to talk to, I don't know, like an advisor, and ask them, because they usually have a lot of resources, and you might be online trying to find something and your school already provides something you might be interested in. So definitely start there.
I just want to add something real quick with what everybody said. Yeah, I would say just make connections with people. I feel like I didn't really do that in college, and I wish I did. Just connect with people and talk to your professors. Your professors will guide you, will help you. And yeah, like just do your research online, try to volunteer at a location, even if you're not sure what you want to do, but try to find a volunteer in something, like if you like use like one thing that you like, or find one thing that you like, or just do something random that you think you will like. And eventually you never know, like Shanetta said, like people are looking at you. Whatever you do, people are looking at you. And yeah, it's just very important to just make that connection, just to put yourself out there, basically.
Mhm.
And don't be like big thing for me was like professors, especially, they're really, honestly, if you becoming like, just go to their office hours, reach out to them, ask questions in class, just because that way you can have a connection with them. I was a criminal justice, that was my minor, and my professor there, because I had an interest in juvie, working with juvenile, and my professor there, I really liked the class, we liked everything, and he brought in an FBI director to come and talk to the whole class, which was huge, because like not even our private schools got that, and we got that, and we had a whole auditorium fill out, and they did an awesome presentation shattering my dreams about criminal minds and how it's nothing alike. But during that time, he actually brought up the fact that, hey, because I told him my status doesn't allow me to work with like federal law enforcement or a state like, I'm just because of my status, you have to be here for the FBI, you have to be a citizen. So I was like, and the director was like, he was like, because my professor talked to him about me and other students like me. He's like, they're highly qualified, they want to do this, but they can't work for you guys because of that. And he addressed it, like the director addressed it there, and he's like, I'm sorry, he's like, that sucks, and I really want us to work and do better on that. Like that was in a whole presentation, and that was huge. Like that to me was huge and impactful, because I'm like, somebody that like, hey, just so you know, we're still here and we want to work for you, and you want us, but there's this thing that we need to talk about.
So let's first of all, thank you all of you. I'm finding this panel to be one of the most uplifting and motivational panels that I've done in a while. So thank you for all those words. And one of the questions that I'd like to ask all of you, and maybe I'll start with you, Jose, because I know you have a story to tell about the importance of entry-level jobs, is what do you wish you had known as an undergrad that you know now in terms of your career development, your career choices?
Kind of along the lines of what I was saying earlier, I think everything happens for a reason, and I don't think that like you need to aim for the highest paying job after graduating. Talking about internships, talking about entry level jobs, a lot of times that experience in itself is more valuable than making like $5 more an hour. You know, like what I would have made if I got that EL specialist job would have been $5 more an hour. It would have been a full-time job, but who knows, maybe I would have just stayed there and been comfortable and wouldn't have pushed myself out of my comfort zone. I think being in a place where you know that you don't want to stay there long term, it's only going to help motivate you and push you to start doing other things that you really want to do. Especially all of us being here, all of us having the statuses that we do, like we've had to push ourselves harder just to get where we're at, and we're going to continue to push ourselves even harder, you know. So like it's not settling, and really trying to do what you love to do, I think is the main thing. Don't, I know it sounds so cliche, but like really don't like chase the money. Like it's, the money comes when you really do things that you enjoy, and when you start interviewing for those like jobs that you really want, and you have the experience, you have those you have the internships under your belt, like you're gonna seem like a more valuable candidate because you bring a lot more to the table. And then, you know, if it's grad school, more fellowships, if it's a job, a higher paying job. So really it's like taking it a step at a time and not trying to rush to the finish line.
And thank you, Donna. She's about to share the resource list because Jose mentioned internships. And again, the resource list that you can download that Donna just put in there has several internships that could be available for you. Jose, did you do any internships that were related to education or teaching in your undergrad?
I did volunteer work when I was in community college working with elementary school students, and I had done stuff through my education minor. And then I had worked within the university, UC Santa Cruz, which was an kind of an internship working as a peer advisor, but it was paid. So that was my background in education.
That's good.
Mostly.
You were doing a lot, from volunteering to paid work to internships, but before you graduated. So that's good. So let's go maybe to Kirsty. What about, what would be one thing that you wish you knew back in your undergrad years that you know now?
Well, definitely finding personal growth, doing a lot of reading, listening to great content that's out on YouTube. Like really, guys, there's so much content on how to improve your habits, how to learn to have a positive mindset. So definitely we need to try to get more personal growth, because that's what's going to help you stand out in whatever you choose. You know, who you get to be as an individual is what's really going to help you be the light everywhere you go. So definitely try to learn something new every single day. So I just wish I had spent more time working on myself, right? Sometimes we want to learn about all the content, but not really on how can I apply it? How can I be better? So yeah, that would be my advice.
And another question that I'm going to throw out there for whoever wants to address it is, I heard a lot at the beginning about, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, right? So I'd love to get some thoughts on how did you, but you still graduated. Oftentimes students think that their major has a direct impact in their job and the career that they're going to have, and they start switching majors a lot through their undergrad years because they still don't know what to do, and that can add years to them, an expense to them graduating. So what do you think of the idea of graduating in some ways quickly with even whatever major, because then you can still figure it out later instead of staying in school to find the perfect major for you? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I actually just told one of my friends about this. Another thing, I'm not going to knock anyone if they actually did this, but minors are certifications. If you guys did not know that, they are certifications. They are not actual degrees. So when you do your major in school, that should be your focus. Your minor is a certification, okay? So my thing is prepare and plan given your status, okay? So first thing, you guys are all here right now. This is the first step that you're taking to bettering yourself. You are here, you're getting this information. That's the first step. In school, try not to, and I'm going to say this, and I'm nothing against advisors at school because they're there to guide you, but keep in mind, advisors are also there to make the school money. You have the ability to go online and pull your course list. Go to whatever course that whatever program you decide that you're going to study, go and pull that course list, and you check off the classes that you would like to take, and you inform your advisors what you would like to take. If you don't do that, they're going to tell you that you have to keep taking these classes when you've already met the requirements to graduate. So you pull that for yourself and check it off. And if you don't do that, I would also recommend looking into certifications or going online. There's so many free courses available. I think the Dream.Us actually informed me about modern states or modern stats or something like that. I was informed about modern states, and if I had known about modern states when I was receiving my associate's degree, I would have completed it in a year. It took me like 3 years because I was paying for it myself. But there's so many resources available for you guys to just use and cover it, but try to graduate as early as possible. Another thing, if you can handle taking 5 classes, you have to show the record that you are able to take more classes as the semesters come. For example, like in the first semester, you're going to have to maybe get like A's and B's to show that you can take on an additional class in the next semester. For me to graduate, I took 6 classes, and you have to get approval from the dean to be able to take 6 classes a semester. But you have to, make sure that you're getting A's and B's to be able to do that. So you are in control of when you graduate, not the advisors. You are. So make sure you're pulling your course list, and do not let them tell you otherwise, please.
That's great advice, Shanetta. Is plan ahead, map up your courses all throughout the years. And every school has different policies, right? So like what are your school, Shanetta, they might have had a GPA requirement, or the dean had to sign off. It might be different at your colleges, so go find out. And I do have a raised hand. Brittany, thank you for raising your hand, and go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, Brittany.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, speak a little bit louder.
Okay, yes. Good evening. I'm in Florida, so it's like 9:05 right now. I don't know where the time zones are right now. But for me, I am an undergrad right now, and I'm thinking of either taking a gap year or going into a master's program and then a doctorate program, because that's where I need to get a doctorate. So I wanted to ask the people that are thinking about a master's or already have a master's, was it a thesis track? I know Jose mentioned all of this training that was included in his master's. So I'm not sure if that's the equivalent of a thesis track for his career path. So I wanted to ask that. And also, will any of you go on to a PhD program? Oh, thank you in advance.
Go ahead, Jose.
So mine didn't have a thesis, which was something I was happy about. Like I know there's other masters in education. I know UCLA's program is 2 years and they need to do a thesis. To be honest, like the amount of work that you have to do, like is a dual teacher ed program and a master's in education. I think having to do a thesis within 1.5 years would have been a lot. But I know that there's a lot of other programs, and it's going to be really dependent on what you get your master's in. But it can really propel you, especially if you're going to go into the education field. I'm assuming since this is an education, getting a doctorate in education or a PhD in education, usually having some experience in the classroom or having a master's in education is going to help you a lot. I do in the future, but I mean, like in the future, want to get like a doctorate in education leadership, but that's going to be down the line. I do think having the experience is really going to help you, especially with some of those doctorate degrees that are a lot more hands-on. And there's differences, at least in a doctorate of education and a PhD in education.
So, and one thing for you all to know is that we're actually going to be doing a series of workshops on graduate school at the end of August. So be on the lookout for an email, an invitation we will send sometime in mid-August. It's to be 2 days, 4 different workshops on applying to grad school. You'll meet alumni who are in grad school right now, getting masters or PhDs or School of Medicine. So attend those workshops when we tell you about them. As I said, they'll be at the end of August. It is 6:07. I know I've kept our panel 7 minutes longer than I said that this panel would be. Before I close, any last words of wisdom or advice that anyone would like to say before I close?
I would just, sorry. Just because something that I experienced recently, but I really encourage you guys to, many of you have worked very hard. We have all worked very hard to be where we're at, and we continue to improve and better ourselves. And like, value your worth and advocate for your worth. Even if you are a DACA recipient, it doesn't mean you are less worthy. It doesn't mean that you should be paid less. So one of the reasons why I transitioned from my job is because I wasn't getting paid fairly. And when we went over this and I talked to my CEO, like, I'll finish the year. And it was like, well, it won't, your rates will not change. Your rates will not go up. And they're actually a very supportive company for, like, you know, minorities and DACA, and they pay for DACA renewals. But I wasn't getting paid fairly because it was barely minimum wage. So I was like, so I finished my year, I put it in. It was a really awful conversation, the way we ended up breaking up with the company. But he was like, you know, it's not easy to replace you. It's going to be very hard to replace you. And as this white man is sitting in front of me telling me this, I'm like, you're telling me that you're going to have a hard time replacing me, and you are not willing to pay me more. You're not willing to pay me what I'm worth. Like, many RBTs get paid an average of $17. I was making way below that. And I was like, you're not even willing to pay me what other competitors are willing to pay me, but you're going to tell me that I'm very valuable and that, you know, it's going to be hard to replace. Like, I had to leave and I had to look for something for me and my family and to better everyone. But I was a little scared because I'm like, oh, they treated me very well. I'm a DACA recipient, but it didn't matter because they didn't value my work. So, like, advocate for the worth of your job, and what you do is valuable. And if there's someone offering you to pay more, then go with them. Like, it's okay. Like, I said not to focus a lot on the money, but at the end of the day, bills got to get paid. So if somebody's willing to pay you more for the same job, then I would, like, don't be afraid to reach out for that as well.
Right. Know your worth, Haynes says.
I'm going to be quick with mine, just how I said with prepare. You know where you are supposed to be, and you know you're going to be getting there. It's just you're not there yet. So make sure you're preparing. Just as how you had to prepare your DACA, you had to prepare to get your DACA status, prepare to go to school, prepare for after graduation. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to have your degree to be where you need to be as yet. The internet is at our disposal. Please do a lot of research. Please reach out to me. And as I told you guys, I'm going to be a lawyer because I do not believe in anybody telling me no. I said that really quickly, but yes, I do not believe in the word no. And personally, that means for me, it means people will tell you no because they just don't want you to. And don't believe that. Don't take it. Always push and try to get your answer. They'll tell you, no, you can't achieve this. No, you can't be this. You can be whoever you want to be and go wherever you want to go. So connect with me, you guys, on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I help a lot of people. If you need jobs, I'm always looking for job opportunities for people. And same thing, anyone on here, if you are a criminal justice student, you do not have to be in the police department, or you don't have to be a police officer to work in the police department. You do not have to be a citizen to work in the police department. And all you need to do is prove yourself in that department to be able to get to where you want to go. Okay, so don't limit yourself. Reach out to me, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Janetta. Anyone else? Any last minutes?
Okay, I will be quick as well. So there are 34 people connected. Somebody's got to be a mother or a father out there, right? Or everyone is probably pretty young, but I'm also a mother. I have 2 children, a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I had to put my career path on hold. So probably someone has been dealing with something like that, right? Sometimes you want to go straight into your master's degree or go to law school, but your children, right? So for me, my master's degree is like my new baby. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, everyone has a different path. And when time comes, when time is right, then I'll jump into the next level. So just adjust yourself to your circumstances. You don't need to be ahead of anyone or behind anyone, just on your own lane. That's all I can tell you. And always seeking help from our creator, right? Because we cannot do anything by ourselves, and everything will be fine. So just stay strong, and may God bless you.
I just want to say one more thing too. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, just be strong. Know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people who can relate to you, like all of us here. There is a lot of us. Don't give up and keep pushing, because sometimes I know it can be discouraging. You might be like, oh my God, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm very limited, but don't let that stop you. Just continue doing what you're doing, because a lot of people, like, they have everything that they need, but they're not going to school, or they're not doing the steps, but you already here. Just continue pushing and go at your own pace. Don't worry about what everybody's doing. Like, oh my God, like, they're doing this, they're doing that. No, just go at your own pace. Yeah. And just reach out to people, try to connect more with people, and and voice your opinion and advocate for yourself. Very important. Advocate for yourself.
Thank you, Melissa, for those words. And I also, just to close off, as we're talking a lot about DACA and those people who have DACA, there might be some of you who don't have DACA, and are undocumented, and no, that's hard. Yes, it's hard, but it's still doable. You can still have a career. You still have options for you. There, before DACA existed, there were still undocumented people in this community, in this country, having careers and having jobs. And yes, a lot of that was through people becoming entrepreneurs, starting their own businesses, pivoting, using the skills that they had to become independent contractors, start businesses. So those are still possible. Keep going. Your college degree will make a huge difference in your life, one way or another. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Kirsty, Janetta, Melissa, Joanna, Jose. You have absolutely been wonderful and inspiring in this session. I loved hearing all of your voices. And scholars, thank you for being with us. The fact that you are here with us today shows that you are doing what it takes to get yourself moving in your careers. So keep joining sessions, keep building relationships, making connections, and learning as much as possible, to get yourself ready for your life after college. With that, I'm waving goodbye. Good night, everybody. In 2 weeks, we will be doing a career session in business. So if you're interested also career in business, you can join that. And as I said, in August, it will be some sessions about grad school. Thank you again. Good night, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. We'll be in touch soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.